Comrades, I'm Jimmy Kelly and I'm from Dublin and I'm chairing this meeting. And
Jimmy Kelly aus Dublin ist der Vorsitzende in dieser Versammlung. Bitte.
And I want to welcome all comrades to the meeting.
Will alle Genossen in die Vereinigung willkommen heißen.
I want to preface the meeting with two personal anecdotes that may be of interest.
Am Anfang zwei persönliche Anekdoten, die interessant sein dürfen.
A couple of months ago, I had a photograph sent to me by my son in China.
Vor einigen Monaten hat mein Sohn in China mir ein paar Bildaufnahmen geschickt aus China.
And the photograph was of my 2-year-old grandson sitting behind the steering wheel of a brand new BMW.
Und das zeigte mein kleiner Enkel an der Steuer eines funkelnagelneuen BMWs.
Now, what shocked me, apart from the fact that the child was behind the wheel and the car was moving, was also the fact that the BMW was the top of the range when you look at electrical cars.
Nicht nur schockierend war, dass ein Kind am Steuer saß, sondern dass das Auto erstklassig war in allen, ein erstklassiger elektronischer Fahrzeug war.
I was even more surprised when my son explained that the car was his.
Noch erstaunender, mein Sohn hat mir erklärt, der Wagen gehöre ihm persönlich.
And I queried how somebody working on a teacher's salary could afford to buy a really, really expensive car.
Und ich konnte nicht verstehen, wie ein Schullehrer, mit dem Einkommen eines Schullehrers so ein erstklassiger Wagen kaufen konnte.
He explained to me that what had happened was when COVID hit China, everybody locked down, including those selling cars.
Erklärte mir, dass mit dem Anfang des Covids, mit der Seuche, haben alle in China zugemacht. Auch die Leute, die Autos verkauften, haben dicht gemacht.
The result was that the car importers and sellers, retailers in China were left with storerooms full of unsold vehicles.
Also, und als Ergebnis blieben die Firmen, die Autos nach China importieren, Hallen voll von unverkauften Wagen.
Now, the dilemma, which I understand wasn't unique for BMW, was that they had these brand new cars that they couldn't sell because the new vehicles, the new range had now hit the market.
Und BMW und andere Marken hatte das Problem, dass sie jetzt die neuesten Linien bekamen, bevor sie diese alten Autos hätte verkaufen können.
So I assumed that what was happening in China was not unique. And it wasn't unique to BMW and it wasn't unique to any of the other car manufacturers.
Und ich dachte mir, das galt nicht nur für China und nicht nur für BMW, sondern für alle autoproduzierende Firmen.
When this was compounded by the aggressive policy of the Chinese to sell into Europe and into America.
Und dann kam die aggressive Taktik der Chinesen, ihre Autos nach Europa zu senden, zu verkaufen.
This convinced me that the German manufacturers and the other international manufacturers of motor cars were going to face a major crisis of, first of all, offloading their stock, and secondly, trying to go into a competitive market.
Ja. Und das hat mich überzeugt, dass diese Firmen zwei Krisen bevorstanden. Erstens, diese alte Autos abzukaufen, zu verkaufen. Und zweitens, da geht das Gehirn aus. Und dass dann die Front machen mussten gegen in einem sehr, sehr schwierigen Markt. Yeah.
And the conclusion I drew is that the workers in those industries are going to find a period of intense pressure on them to manufacture cars cheaper and faster.
Und ich habe den Schluss gezogen, dass die Arbeiter in diese Industrien eine intensive Probleme bevorstanden von Druck.
And an example of what I also concluded was there was a British television program on manufacturing in Europe, and it showed the Volkswagen factory turning cars out about every 10 minutes.
Und ich sah auch im Fernsehen hier in England eine Sendung über die Volkswagen-Fabrik, wo alle 10 Minuten ein neues Auto entstand am Ende des Fließbandes.
The other anecdotal point was that yesterday I was with another one of my sons
Und
who was
gestern
buying a second-hand car in Dublin.
war ich mit einem anderen Sohn, der in Dublin eine Gebrauchswagen kaufte.
And I was shocked at fields that were full of cars for sale, second-hand cars of exceptional quality at reasonable prices.
Und ich sah mit Erstaunen ganze Acker voll von Gebrauchswagen, sehr gute, sehr billige Gebrauchswagen. Yeah.
And for me, this translated into an even greater pressure on those attempting to sell new cars into a market saturated with quality second-hand cars.
Und es fiel mir ein, dass dies einen vertieften Druck ausdrückte für diejenigen, die neue Autos auf den Markt bringen wollen.
Now, it is against those personal observations that I would ask Comrade Thorsten and welcome to introduce the reality of life in the Volkswagen industry and in the motor industry in Germany, and the perspectives ahead for workers and the struggles that face them. So I welcome you, Comrade.
Im Lichte dieser paar Bemerkungen
This meeting is being recorded.
heiße ich die Genossen willkommen in diese Diskussion. So ungefähr.
Okay. Ja, soll ich jetzt erstmal was von Deutschland erzählen oder wie wollen wir weitermachen?
Should I carry on now in German or in what? Ja, gerne. Von mir aus sprichst du Deutsch und ich kann auf Englisch dolmetschen.
Ja. Also ich will erstmal ein paar Worte zur Geschichte vom Volkswagen sagen.
First of all, a few words about the history of Volkswagen.
Also VW ist folgendermaßen entstanden. Hitler hat damals die Gewerkschaften 1933 entmachtet, das Geld genommen und damit wurde Volkswagen aufgebaut.
Yeah. And the history of Volkswagen is in 1933, Hitler smashed up the unions, took their money off them, and Volkswagen was based on that.
Der Haupteigentümer Wolfgang Porsche, das ist der Enkel von Ferdinand Porsche, ehemaliger SS-Offizier, der auch viele Zwangsarbeiter in Wolfsburg eingesetzt hat, um das Werk aufzubauen.
And among the owners was Porsche, the father of a SS officer, Porsche, and this company used slave labor to build the cars in their factories.
Das erstmal so zur Grundvoraussetzung. Also die Krise in der Automobilindustrie ist vorausschaubar gewesen. Also selbst wenn jetzt massiv auf Elektromobilität umgestellt wird, für ein Elektroauto braucht man 3 Leute, um das zu produzieren, und um einen Verbrenner zu produzieren, braucht man 7 Leute. Und da merkt man schon mal an den beiden Zahlen, dass es zu Beschäftigungsproblemen kommen kann, ganz abgesehen
So
von
the
der Masse.
crisis in the automobile industry was very easy to anticipate. The fact is that ich weiß nicht, ob ich die Zahlen richtig habe. They need 3 people to build an electric EV, whereas they need 7 people to build a petrol-burning engine, a car.
Ja, ja, und vor 2 Jahren haben sich Leute aus der Klimabewegung in die Stadt Wolfsburg begeben, um eben auf die Probleme aufmerksam zu machen, dass auch Elektromobilität schlecht für die Umwelt sind, und eben mit der Werbung reinzugehen, auch öffentliche Verkehrsmittel zu bauen.
Yeah, and in Wolfsburg, the environmental campaigners turned up in Wolfsburg, which is the city with the massive Volkswagen factory in it, and they started campaigning to explain that even electrical vehicles involve a great deal of carbon damage. And that there's no easy way out of this climate crisis.
Sie sind auch damit reingegangen, wir brauchen alle keine Entlassungen bei VW, war eine Forderung der Klimaleute gewesen, und auch Arbeitszeitverkürzung.
Yeah.
Just
to catch up, and what these campaigners were putting forward was the need to develop public transport in place of private transport. And they also emphasized that they were not looking to make workers unemployed, and they were looking to bring in cuts in working hours, shorter working hours. Bitte.
Ja, die haben verschiedene Aktionen gemacht, zum Beispiel einen Autozug, wo die neuen Autos transportiert werden, wurde verkleidet als Straßenbahn.
So they tried a few what would you say, tricks. At one point they had a train full of cars in a railway transporter dressed up as a tram.
Und die haben auch auf der Aktionärshauptversammlung eine Torte nach diesem Nazi-Enkel geschmissen und haben blutige Geldscheine hochgeworfen, haben auf das Problem der Uiguren da aufmerksam gemacht.
And they also pulled a stunt at the annual general meeting of the Volkswagen company shareholders, where they pointed out that the bloody hands of the people that had set up the firm and distributed money, banknotes with bloody handprints on them.
Ja, also von den Leuten, die da aktiv gewesen sind, sie hatten eigentlich größere Erwartungen gehabt, dass sich die Arbeiter jetzt massenhaft ihnen anschließen und dass die Gewerkschaftsführung in Wolfsburg bereit ist zu reden. Und da sind so die ersten Enttäuschungen aufgekommen bei den jungen Klimaaktivisten.
Yeah. These activists expected that they would get a good response from the workers and from the trade union representatives, but they were really disappointed.
Ja, aber ich finde trotzdem, man muss nicht enttäuscht sein, weil es haben sich dort immer regelmäßig 10 Kolleginnen und Kollegen getroffen. Und aus dieser Initiative heraus ist auch hier eine Gruppe in Kassel entstanden mit 20 VW-Kollegen. Also wenn man das so rechnet für Leute, die lange politisch im linken Spektrum aktiv gewesen sind, ist es doch positiv, das Ergebnis.
And they shouldn't have been disappointed because out of this agitation, a group got together, small numbers at first, but up to 20 odd people in Kassel. And for us, those of us that have been active on the left politically, that's not something to be sneezed at.
Ja, und da heraus hat sich natürlich auch herauskristallisiert, dass es nicht reicht, über Klima oder nur Umstellung der Produktion zu reden, sondern gerade jetzt in der aktuellen Situation auch ein Stück weit Widerstand zu leisten mit den Kollegen.
And so we concluded that it was necessary to offer some concrete opposition in this situation, to resistance, to put up some resistance in this situation.
Ja, zur aktuellen Situation bei VW. Es wurde der Tarifvertrag zur Beschäftigungssicherung gekündigt. Der hatte eigentlich eine Gültigkeit bis 2029.
So they just had a new contract signed at Volkswagen, which bis wann?
Bis 2029.
Okay, so that contract will run till 2029.
Genau. Und jetzt ist natürlich, die Kollegen denken jetzt eben, auch wenn ein neuer Vertrag jetzt kommt zur Beschäftigungssicherung bis 2035, der Glaube daran ist verloren gegangen, weil die Kapitalisten werden das Ding kündigen, sobald sie keine Arbeit mehr für uns haben.
Yeah, I think, if I understand that rightly, he's saying the colleagues in the workforce aren't convinced that will go as far as not 2029 when they take a look at the state of trade in the automobile industry.
Ja, also das Unternehmen hat auch Werksschließungen angekündigt, Massenentlassungen, und die erste Werksschließung soll wohl in Brüssel stattfinden, also in
Yeah.
Belgien, außerhalb von Deutschland.
In fact, the company has given notice of massive redundancies, including, and the first ones are coming not in Germany, but in Belgium.
Die Gewerkschaftsführung vertritt mehr oder weniger immer wieder, einzelne Gewerkschaftsführer sagen das auch deutlich, sie wollen den Wirtschaftsstandort Deutschland wettbewerbsfähiger machen. Und das widerspricht natürlich.
So that's an untranslatable concept, but individual leaders of the trade union have said that the key thing is to make Germany once more a competitive economy, able to put up to face down foreign competition.
Und das spiegelt sich natürlich in der wenigen internationalen Solidarität wider. Also Brüssel ist kaum genannt worden, dass die Kollegen in Brüssel vor dem gleichen Problem stehen. Ähnlich ist es bei der kompletten Automobil- und Zulieferindustrie, die genau die gleichen Probleme haben. Es wird so eben mehr oder weniger der Blick immer nur darauf geworfen, wir müssen wettbewerbsfähiger werden, wir wissen besser, wie man etwas billiger produzieren kann, und ganz wenig internationale Solidarität und auch keine Diskussion über Umstellung der Produktion.
And bearing in mind that the fellow workers in Brussels will be the first to suffer job cuts and closures and pressure to increase output. But instead of discussing the problem in terms of solidarity with workers, sorry. You know, the trade union leaders discuss the problem in terms of how the industry can become more competitive.
Ja, und auch die Aktionen jetzt im Moment, also es haben bis jetzt keine Streiks. Die Friedenspflicht, wir dürfen erst streiken ab dem 1. Dezember.
Sorry, Friedenspflichten?
Friedenspflicht, Streiks sind erst am 1. Dezember möglich wegen Friedenspflicht. Ja.
Okay. So it won't be possible to take strike action before December because of the terms under which negotiations take place.
Aber trotzdem zeichnet sich schon ab, dass die Gewerkschaften wollen keinen wirtschaftlichen Druck auf das Unternehmen ausüben. Es wurde zurzeit noch Mehrarbeit wurde zugestimmt von dem Betriebsrat. Also man merkt, sie wollen noch nicht mal durch das Absagen von Überstunden und Mehrarbeit noch nicht mal da wollen sie wirtschaftlichen Druck ausüben. Es wird weiterhin Mehrarbeit und Überstunden auch gemacht in verschiedenen Abteilungen.
And I mean the position of the Shop Stewards Committee or the Works Committee in German context is they're not putting the company under any economic pressure at all. They're not discussing any strike action or anything to slow down production, but in fact they're encouraging people to do more overtime.
Ja, also man merkt schon, wenn man sich mit Kollegen unterhalten tut, bei VW sind 90% in der Gewerkschaft, in der IG Metall organisiert. 90%.
So that's the vast majority of workers at Volkswagen are in the big engineering industry union, the IG Metall, Interessengemeinschaft Metall.
Ja, und deswegen hat VW, weil die anderen Automobilhersteller viel weniger organisiert werden, VW hat so einen Modellcharakter. Also wenn die uns jetzt, wenn bei uns die Geschichte negativ ausgeht, dann werden die Kapitalisten natürlich bei Mercedes, bei Audi, überall anders knallhart durchziehen. Die gucken schon darauf, wie weit kommt jetzt das Unternehmen mit Massenentlassung.
Yeah. And very much the Volkswagen is very much the canary in the coal mine for the German car industry. What happens to us tends to then follow on all the other industries follow that path. All the other car manufacturers follow that.
Ja, so weit erstmal von mir.
And that's all right. That's from me. Okay. Yes, that's the end of his contribution.
Okay, comrades, I thank you for that. We now open out the meeting to the floor, and if any comrade wishes to make a contribution, you can use the little button with the hand signal on it, or in view of the fact we're on a single screen, if you just simply put your hand up, we can recognize you straight away. So I welcome contributions from any comrades, please. While comrades might be taking over. Oh, sorry, Ian.
Ian, yeah.
Yeah, Ian, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, just a quick question, maybe a little off topic, but because the class struggle determines everything, I think a general, in a way, question about Germany could still be relevant. It's about German foreign policy, how in this period of this particular government, everything seems to be going off the rails with Germany's imperialist foreign policy. Of course, they've got the commitment to Israel that they justify in terms of the Holocaust, the war guilt. That this is, Varoufakis described it as alternative nationalism. Now that German nationalism isn't seen as such a good ideology by the bourgeoisie, of course, there's a lot of German nationalism, I think, in terms of the establishment, as opposed to like right-wing opposition movements like the AFD. There's some
Ian.
Oh, sorry.
All right, stop there, Ian. I'll try and catch up.
Okay.
Also, es ist eine Frage nicht, also ein bisschen daneben. Es stellt die Frage, dass die deutsche Außenpolitik jetzt auf dem Holzweg geht. Also die Politik des deutschen Imperialismus, zum Beispiel Bündnis mit Israel, führt in eine Sackgasse. Also es ist ein bisschen neben der Frage, die Genossen stellen, aber es spielt auch eine Rolle, glaube ich. Also
and
yeah, go on.
And on the other hand, coming out of the war guilt, I'd say a more positive, certainly less belligerent attitude to Russia until 2 or 3 years ago. But what we've seen is, while Israel fits in with the American-led imperialist program, once that became untenable, the position on Russia, it was dropped. So now we've got German rearmament, support for groups like Azov in the Ukraine, and letting their own Nord Stream be blown up. And although it was seen as a conspiracy theory at first that anyone other than the Russians did it to their own infrastructure, it's now seen as quite obvious as was done by Ukraine or by the West, which is effectively the same thing. And this, of course, has been embraced by the Greens as leading to more green energy, although, of course, the immediate consequence is leading to more American oil and gas as a higher price. So I'm just wondering how the trade union movement's responding to this. The fact that it's a government of the Social Democratic Party that all these things have happened under, if they've got a big implantation in unions the way Labour does over here, and if not, who does? And the situation with the Left Party, where it's almost defunct, and now the Sarah Wagner Party with a better foreign policy, but other issues, shall we say. Plus the Greens are pretty degenerate now organisation in Germany. I saw the other day a picture, video of. Sorry.
I mean, you're taking a tour around the whole of German politics here. Also, der Genosse stellt die Frage über die Position der herrschenden Klasse in Deutschland. Die haben eine Krise, zum Beispiel angesichts Israel, und auch ihr Verhältnis zur amerikanischen Imperialismus ist beschädigt. Und jetzt gibt es, ich weiß nicht genau, was gesagt hat, mit dem Krieg in Ukraine, Zweifel, wie die deutsche Regierung, eine sozialdemokratische Mehrheitsregierung, wo sie gehen werden, wohin, was passiert mit der linken Partei und vor allem, dass diese Spaltung mit Sarah Wagenknecht. Also ein paar Fragen da.
Ja. Also erstmal, ich fange mal hinten an mit Sarah Wagenknecht.
Yeah,
also
let's start at the end with Sarah Wagenknecht. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sarah Wagenknecht ist die einzige, die so sich gegen den Krieg äußert. Das macht bei uns aber auch eine ziemlich rechte Partei, die AfD, eine rechtsfaschistische Partei. Und Sarah Wagenknecht hat dadurch viel Zulauf, weil da ein großes Vakuum ist. Die Sozialdemokratische Partei ist sich da nicht einig. Und selbst in der Partei Die Linke wird der Krieg oder Waffenlieferung nicht komplett abgelehnt. Und es gibt viele Leute, die haben da Hoffnung auf Sarah Wagenknecht, aber Sarah Wagenknecht ist auch sehr konservativ auf der anderen Seite, macht eine sehr schlechte Flüchtlingspolitik, setzt auf Technologien der Vergangenheit wie Atomkraft also sie vertritt auch sehr rückschrittliche Positionen zu dem Thema.
Darf ich übersetzen?
Ja.
Sorry, Sarah Wagenknecht has some very, very reactionary positions. She supports atomic energy, for example. She has a terrible position on migrants, and she's moved into an area, you know, there's the huge gap left by the SPD. She's moved into that gap, but with these really right-wing policies. Ja, bitte. And dann. Yeah.
I want to go back, and if you want to finish your contribution, but I appeal to all the comrades to give Bob a chance by leaving breaks.
Ja, Thor, wolltest du weiter erzählen, mehr sagen dazu?
Ja, also es gibt innerhalb der Gewerkschaft gibt es da auch Auseinandersetzungen über das Thema. Es wurde sogar in Bremen wurde ein Gewerkschaftshaus von einer linken Gruppe wurde das mehr oder weniger besetzt. Die haben Transparente rausgehangen gegen den Krieg und dass wir als Gewerkschaft uns jetzt klar positionieren müssen gegen den Krieg. Aber es gibt auch von der Gewerkschaftsführung es gibt da unterschiedliche Papiere von der Gewerkschaftsführung. Also es gibt ein Papier auch vom zweiten Vorsitzenden der IG Metall, wo er sich zusammen mit der SPD für Rüstungsproduktion ausgesprochen hat. Also das ist auch ein sehr großes Thema mit dem Krieg, auch innerhalb der Gewerkschaften, und dort finden auch Auseinandersetzungen darüber statt.
Yeah, also this is explaining that there are real tensions about these different political problems inside the working class. There's a trade union premises in Bremen were occupied by left-wing trade unionists who were against arming the Ukrainians and and intensifying the war, and on the other hand, there have been quite leading members of the Trade Union Federation have been co-signing, co-authoring documents calling for more development, to build up the armaments industry. So yeah, these are very hot questions. Yeah.
I got to ask Ian to come back in again, and then Finn following.
No, I'd actually more or less finished. Just saying thank you for answering my very long question. It kind of meandered from foreign policy to the political parties, but it was very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Finn?
Yeah, comrades, I want to begin by thanking Thor for his opening contribution. And there's a number of questions I want to raise. Firstly, these relate to politics within Germany. Firstly, is the discussion happening in the organised working class, particularly in manufacturing industry, about the future development, political direction of Germany?
Yeah, should I translate that? Also Finnbar bedankt sich bei Thor für seine Rede. hat eine Anzahl Fragen. Zuerst, Nummer 1. In der deutschen Politik gibt es eine große, oder was für eine Diskussion gibt es in der organisierten Arbeiterklasse über diese Sachen?
Ja, ist natürlich schwer zu bewerten, weil mein Einblick ist natürlich auch nur sehr gering mit den Kollegen, die ich um mich herum habe. Also es ist schon so, dass große Ängste da sind und kommt immer so die Frage auf, sind denn die Automobilbeschäftigten dafür eigentlich etwas anderes produzieren zu wollen? Und im Moment sieht das so aus, die Kollegen sagen in meinem Umfeld, sie wollen sichere Jobs. Sie wollen ihr Leben so behalten, wie das ist. Sie wollen gut bezahlte Jobs. Und wo das Teil jetzt eingebaut wird, ob in einer Straßenbahn, in ein Auto oder in eine Wärmepumpe, ist den Kollegen völlig egal. Im Vordergrund steht, sie wollen sichere Jobs. Also bei der Frage von Umstellung von Produktion merkt man kommt da jetzt zurzeit ziemlich schnell weiter. Ähnlich ist es zu dem Thema Arbeitszeitverkürzung. Also der große Wunsch ist da nach Arbeitszeitverkürzung, weil die Arbeitszeit sehr flexibilisiert ist und oftmals wird das Wochenende durchgearbeitet.
Ah, okay. So on that first part of the question, then yes, it is difficult to get a real grip of it. People are afraid. It's not clear that automobile workers are interested in transforming the methods of production, the aim of production, and making it something different. They're comparatively well paid. They have, comparatively well paid jobs. They have that security, and they're not. The one thing they'd really would go for at the moment would be shorter working hours, because they're now working a flexible week or flexible hours, and they would like an overall cut in hours.
So
I want to develop the point a bit. There's going to be federal elections in Germany next year.
Yeah.
And there's been warning signals already. There have been regional elections in some of the Länder of Germany, and in Saxony, Brandenburg, and Thuringia, the Alternative for Deutschland received over 30% of the vote. Now, is that a signal for what may happen across Germany in the elections of next year?
Thorsten? Thorsten, soll ich mal antworten?
Okay. Oder haben Sie verstanden?
Nein, ich habe nicht.
Okay.
Ja.
Die zweite Frage ist, nächstes Jahr gibt es Bundeswahlen.
Ja.
Es gibt schon Warnsignale aus dem Osten, wo die AfD sehr viele Stimmen bekommen. Wird dasselbe sein in anderen Teilen Deutschlands in einer Bundeswahl, in einem Bundeswahl?
Jörg, vielleicht willst du dazu was sagen?
Yeah, I can answer. I came from the east, so and I recognize that here, and it is at first a disaster. If you look to the results, you can you can say every third people here or vote for a fascist party, and that is really a risk thing. And the explanation is perhaps a simple explanation for that is that the AfD stand for a peace or to negotiation with Ukraine to end the war. That was the first thing. So, and they have also placards for with for peace and so on. And the other thing is the illegal immigration. So that is a topic. So and what we recognize we have only when we have not only on election level move to the right. We have also in the complete, I would say, in a complete politics in all bourgeois parties. So and a move to the right. So and when you hear, for example, for the statements about the illegal immigration from the FDP, from the CDU, and also as well also the SPD, yeah, you will recognize that they now they demand to have tough measures against the illegal immigration. That means that they start again here or introduce again border controls, and they put out peoples of the cars which are not looks like jump people, for example, that they have the idea to do on the border kind of pushbacks, that they say, oh, you cannot in here, and the other thing is that also the idea, and that is a scandal, that the idea come from the minister, security minister from the SPD.
Jorge, could you give Bob a chance to catch up for a moment, please?
No, we speak in English.
Sure. Okay. Thorsten knows that what I tell. We have this already in our discussion. Yeah, and the other thing is this come from the SPD, so that that they will jail illegal immigrants, including their families on the border. So and you see, so we have broad move to the right. And then the AfD is then telling, okay, what you are doing, FDP, CDU, and so on, is original that what we demonstrated already for 10 years ago. So and then the people, they have. The people have many people have really a feeling that we have here a big problem with illegal immigration. On the other side, we have to see that we need immigration, probably like Britain. So we have a lack of work resources in every sector of our economy. So but I think also in the German media, every day you heard in the talk shows they talk about the illegal immigration. So and that makes a climate inside of the society that we have a big problem, and the people see or many people think for this big problem the AfD is the best solution, and that lead we to a bigger results for the election. But on the other side, we recognize in the last months on the Germany level, including the West, there's a constant value of the AfD of 13%. So and that means that they are still quite in a big majority, but with a bigger influence. But the bigger problem is so the right moving of the bourgeois parties, and that we perhaps see in the next years the coalition between AfD or CDU and so on. So, but that is not. When you look to Europe, we have the same. It's not surprising. We have the same development like in Italy, in Denmark, and in Poland for some years ago, in Hungary. So we are in this general trend, which is going to in the right direction. So,
Jimmy, I wonder could I complete just my point?
Yes, I was going to ask it then.
Yeah, I'll finish on this point. I'm interested in the possible developments and perspectives for example, the SPD. What will happen to them? in the course of the federal elections. The Die Linke seems to have declined significantly, but what's the expectation for Die Linke? And finally, what's happening politically within the broad trade union confederations? So these are questions, and again, I want to thank the comrades. Vielen Dank für zwei Kameraden aus Deutschland.
Ja, also der Genosse hat auch zusätzlich die Frage gestellt, was sind die Perspektiven innerhalb der Sozialdemokratischen Partei? Was wird politisch innerhalb dieser Partei passieren? Und und auch was passiert innerhalb der linken Partei? Was nun für die linke Partei? Und dann innerhalb der Gewerkschaften, was ist die politische Diskussion innerhalb der Gewerkschaften?
Thank you, Bob. Norma, would you like to come in?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for your exposition. I just have some concrete questions or comments on the specific subject of today. Automobilist workers and the problems this industry of this sector of work is facing, not only in Germany.
Norma, the quality of the sound seems to have gone very, very poor.
And now, do you hear?
Yes, that's much better.
Thank you. I should repeat or?
Yeah, repeat, please.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this exposition, organizing this online conference, and very interesting. I have some few questions on or comments on the specific points of the workers and these industries, the activities. I think the problem, I am in France. I think the problem is not only perhaps Volkswagen or Sherman, but it's a problem, I mean, at least facing in Europe as a whole, with more or less common problems and some differences. But I think that this industry, as all industry and many of the transformations, we are in a phase transition set of humanity, or some of the part of the systems, and so I think that this transformation is always. I am not afraid about the future of this industry if if the workers, engineering, and needs also high capacity, or said going to updating techniques, because people in many countries are asking for the new designs, the looks, or the high quality. It has a very, if you look at this industry, have a very high development. I mean, and for the workers in designing new ways, or more, also more eco-sustentable, different types of transportation, not only of people, but also about the objects, or
Norma, could you hold for a moment, please, to give Bob a chance for the translate for the German comrades?
I'm finding it very difficult to get a grip of what the comrade's saying. Sorry, partly it's the sound quality, you know. I'm sorry, I'm not really sure what the comrade has said.
Okay, you just have to. Norma, could you resume again, please, and possibly get closer to the microphone?
Germany, but in Europe, and I don't think there is a real problem if the fish industry follows.
Norma, if anything, that's worse.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think it's a problem in Europe, not only in Germany. That's it. And that in fact there is a transformation which other industries also are facing, and industry have a good future if it's following the progress which are also in other industries and sectors. And diversification, not only for the transport of people, but for the transport of objects. And there is a difference of the situation in the countryside, in territories, with respect to the cities, urban people.
Norma, I don't think it's very fair for you to continue, because the quality of what you're saying is very poor, and it's a pity. Is there any way you could come in on a different connection?
But as far as I understand it, Norma's saying there is a problem in Europe, and that the problems that the comrades have mentioned in Germany are faced throughout Europe, and all the industries in Europe face a transformation. But there's also the question of cities as anyway, you know, when we talk about transformation, and after all, this is meant to be a discussion about the future of transformation, of transportation. There's a difference between the town and the countryside. So that's another thing that has to be overcome.
Norma, do you want to try again, please?
Yes, that's it has been a good summary, and also say that not only a question of, which is a question of transformation and diversity, as has been said very clear by Bob. Difference between countryside territories and urban cities life, and also diversity between transportation of people and transportation of objects and or things people need to transport, and also that need imagination and transportation, which is in some sense easy to understand. And public transportation, at least in France, for instance, has suffered a degradation. I mean, not quality and not very well supported. And so people need transportation, but not the kind of this public transportation in which the quality in which people are traveling is not good for everyday for everyday displacement in which there are overcrowded or there are not, even accidents and so on. So there is a way to, in that, there is a way to facilitate, and as has been said, beginning the public transportation in different kinds, and that the industry have a lot to construct and to do, to propose, and that needs a high qualification too. There is also the small transport. There is a variety and diversity. And what I was saying too is that the very high quality and new designs, people also, that's a future in creativity for the industry. And I think that is good, making that the way in which more sustainable and so on. Because transportation is needed, that is for sure. And that transportation needs an industry, and an industry at the height and at the quality of what is going on. So with all the design and all the informatics and all what we have at hand now to make this more at the air of the time. I think there is a big future if we take the challenges and not at the best level, and not to be afraid because of the past.
Yeah.
Okay, Norma.
Shall I translate that quickly, because that was interesting, and especially for the comrades in Germany. Sie sprach über das Potenzial der Verwandlung in den Verhältnissen zwischen Menschen und Objekte. Vor allem das ist eine gute Zeit für die Verwandlung in der Transportation, in der Transportindustrie. Wenn Versuche nicht sehr gut unterstützt werden. Wir wollen nicht die Art von öffentlichen Verkehr, wo die Qualität nicht gut ist. Es gibt Wege, eine andere Art von Verkehr zu fördern. Es geht um die Vielfalt, Diversität und die Qualität. Und es gibt die Möglichkeit, neue Technologien zu entwerfen, mehr erhaltbare. Wir brauchen eine Veränderung. Wir brauchen Qualität. Es gibt die Möglichkeit durch Design, Entwurf und mit Computern und so neue Wege einzuschlagen. Es gibt eine große Zukunft, wenn wir diesem Problem Front machen. Yeah, so right.
Thanks, Bob. At this stage, I'm going to call in Roger, followed by Dominic as speakers that haven't contributed yet. Roger?
Yes, thanks, Comrade. First of all, thank you very much to Comrade Thor, who's given us a really interesting picture of the situation developing. There's obviously a major trade war developing in relation to, specifically in relation to the car industry. In USA, I believe that there's now 100% tariff put on for Chinese electrical vehicles, and presumably that's only one symptom of the general crisis and the situation that Comrade described. Now, that being the case, surely the kind of attacks on living standards, on wages, and on employment rights that the comrade described in Volkswagen in Germany, that must be presumably going to be repeated, or is perhaps already being repeated in the car industry worldwide. In Britain, of course, we don't have a car industry. It was shut down by Thatcher. We have a couple of car assembly plants, which were launched in Britain by a Japanese and an Indian company, mainly because Britain was still part of the EU, and therefore it was a springboard or jumping off point for the market in Europe. So how long that will last after Brexit is another issue. But what I'm really asking is, thanks for the very interesting information about what's happening in Volkswagen in Germany. But could you tell me more about the situation in the car industry worldwide, and particularly, I think you mentioned, or you've given references in the past to the Audi workers in Belgium. Is there presumably there's the kind of fight back that you're talking about in Volkswagen in Germany is going to be repeated in the car industry worldwide? I'd like to know just your comments on that.
Okay. Before the German comrades respond to you, Roger, can we let Dominic come in?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I was a bit late to get in, a bit of trouble with the computer sort of setup, so I might have missed it. But the comrade was saying that the trade union officials were basically taking up the line of the management, that the solution of the crisis, as far as they were concerned in Germany, was for the workers to take lower conditions, lower wages, take greater exploitation, and by this means they could compete with foreign competition, who presumably would have to go down the same road of taking less wages, worse conditions, and greater exploitation to suit the position of the management. I mean, what are these trade union leaders there for? As a voice of the management, as a voice of the capitalists? What's the opposition to this within the trade union movement? I think I got the impression it was a bit sparse, but surely if you keep campaigning and you keep explaining that all the employers are interested in is feathering their own nest at the expense of the working class, you know, there should be some grounds for building up opposition to them. And I think once you explain that, that raises a whole other load of questions about what the role of the capitalists are with regard to the whole system of transport and 1,001 other situations. But I would have thought within the in the car industry that the prospect of lower wages and worse conditions is something that's once spelled out to the workers in the industry would bring some unity and opposition to the capitalists. You might have covered that earlier, but I just found the whole position of that is like the situation all over Europe, as far as I see it, with regard to the capitalists. Sorry, the Labour, so-called Labour politicians and so-called trade union officials are not interested in the working class. They're there to provide a ticket for their reasonable lifestyle. They're not there to defend and advance the interests of the working class. And I think that's, you know, a voice that should be really hammered over. I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Dominic. Before we move on to Steve, Bob, could you summarize Dominic and Roger for the benefit of the German comrades, please?
Also, umfassend. Also Roger sagte, wir wissen, es gibt jetzt Tarife von 100% für chinesische elektronische Fahrzeuge, die nach Amerika exportiert werden. Das heißt, wie heißt das? Steuer. Ein Steuer von 100%. In diesem Fall müssen es überall in der Autoindustrie, überall in der Welt, große Angriffe auf Löhne, Arbeitsumstände und Arbeitsplätze geben. Wir in England, in England haben nur ein paar Autofabriken, wo japanische und indische Autos zusammengestellt werden. Und das hing zusammen mit unserer Mitgliedschaft in der Europäischen Union. Die gibt es nicht mehr. Also diese Fabriken haben keine Zukunft. Und was wissen wir über die Autoindustrie weltweit? Wird der Widerstand bei VW sich ausdehnen? Und Dominik stellte ein paar Fragen über die Haltung der Wirtschaftsbonzen, die Gewerkschaftsbonzen. Das heißt, stimmt es also, dass diese Führer der Gewerkschaften bloß die Meinung der Unternehmer teilen? Wofür gibt es dann Gewerkschaftsführer? Ihre Aufgabe ist, den Streit der Arbeiterklasse zu führen, aber das passiert nicht. I personally wanted to make an intervention here. In the blurb for this discussion, the German comrades made it really clear that they wanted to put forward proposals to their workmates and to the public, presumably, that would make sense, a campaign that would make sense in dealing with the crisis at work and the crisis in the relationship between the human being and the environment. And they didn't say so specifically, but I imagine this was because they're very conscious of the points that Dominic and Roger have raised, and they're trying to find a way forward. And in fact, despite the difficulty in hearing the comrade from France, she was desperately trying to approach the same question, perhaps from a more abstract point of view. Sorry, that's just my take on the discussion as well. So it's over to the Germans, I think.
Oh, great. Thorsten, do you want to respond to the discussion so far?
Perhaps if Jörg got what I was saying is, oder Tor.
Ja, also würde ich erst mal was sagen. Wird sich der Widerstand ausweiten bei den Angriffen auf die Automobilarbeiter? Man weiß es nicht. Also die Gewerkschaftsführung hält da ziemlich einen Deckel drauf.
Yeah, so the question was raised, will the resistance spread out? And he says, well, it's not, there's not a clear answer to that. These bureaucrats do keep the lid on.
Das Risiko, wenn nicht gekämpft wird, wenn sich die Gewerkschaften jetzt zurückhalten, das Risiko ist ziemlich groß, dass es zu einer dass die Leute massenhaft im Elend und in Arbeitslosigkeit landen, weil das Beschäftigungsverhältnis ist eben, es werden nur die Hälfte nur noch von den Mitarbeitern gebraucht, selbst wenn die Elektromobilität gut verkauft wird.
Yeah, so the risk is, if there is not a fight, the risk is that masses will be driven into poverty and misery and demoralization, because the fact is they don't need as many workers to build an electrical vehicle as they needed to build a car.
Also im Moment die Gewerkschaftsführung, sie versucht weiterhin sozialpartnerschaftlich im Frieden mit den Arbeitgebern zu verhandeln und auch mit dem großen Glaube, dass der Kapitalismus weiterhin funktionieren kann.
Yeah. So the trade union leaders carry on the same old alliance with the negotiations with the employers in the confidence that capitalism will carry on and they'll sort their problems out.
Also es zeichnet sich nicht ab, dass sie sich mit den Kapitalisten anlegen wollen, weil bei einer Produktion von öffentlichen Verkehrsmitteln würden sie wesentlich weniger Profite machen. Arbeitszeitverkürzung würde auch viel Geld kosten für die Kapitalisten und selbst die Produktion von Kleinwagen lehnen sie ab bei VW, weil dort nicht genügend Profite gemacht werden können.
Yeah. So,
Also wenn, dann müsste die Gewerkschaftsführung sich auch mit den Kapitalisten anlegen im Moment, um einen Kampf zu führen, und das zeichnet sich nicht ab, dass
there's no sign of the trade union leaders starting a fight, because the position of the employers is quite fixed. They won't need the same workforce to produce EVs. There's no interest in making smaller vehicles because there's much less profit in that, and that's to say that's Volkswagen saying that. I mean, they were the world's experts at producing small vehicles back in the day. Yes, there's these are the problems they're dealing with, and they've raised the question of switching to producing public transport and putting all the emphasis on public transport on environmental grounds, but it's not something that the employers want to do at all.
Ja, ich will noch ein paar Sachen anfügen. Also verschiedene stalinistische, kommunistische Gruppen, die sind da im Moment am Arbeiten und tun eben so Slogans raushauen, selbstständige Streiks, wir müssen uns jetzt selbst organisieren und also die sind da ziemlich, also mich wundert es in dem Zusammenhang, wie stark die Stalinisten doch in den Betrieben verankert sind. Und
okay. So another point to make is that Stalinist groups or successor groups of Stalinism are putting up a big campaign, or they make a campaign for the working class to take independent wildcat action, for the workforce to bypass the union leaders and go out on wildcat strikes. But it's not clear how much support they have in the actual workforce. Yeah, bitte.
Okay, thanks, Bob, again. Steve, can we call on you now, please?
Yeah, well, I think that the crisis of the competition in the world, global situation, is that basically that the United States and Europe are not competitive against Chinese capitalism, Chinese production. And the tariffs that both the Democrats and Republicans, particularly Trump, are proposing are going to lead to world depression. If Trump puts on 1,000% tariffs, they're not going to allow Chinese cars into the United States. So what does that mean to the world car industry? It's going to mean that the United States will not be able to sell its cars, its EVs, and I don't think there's any solution outside of the working class and Europe, the United States, taking control, taking power. And I think that the trade union bureaucracy in Germany, as in the United States, thinks that they can make some kind of arrangement to protect their situation. But I think that the rise of fascism is connected. Maybe you can talk about the rise of fascists in the unions. Are they organizing politically in the unions in Germany, the fascists? That's a question. But I think in the case of Germany, Germany is, particularly because they supported the United States in stopping trade with Russia, are in a very vulnerable position and are facing a depression. I think that has to be said to the world working class, not just the German working class, but the American working class. And I think that as we all know, the crisis of overproduction and capitalism leads to, a dire situation for the working class and economic depression globally. So I think that's, I don't know the other issue I have is the war, imperialist wars.
Steve, could you hold on that point for a moment?
Okay,
Give
yeah.
Bob a chance.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Unser Genosse aus Amerika erzählt, diese Krise des Kapitalismus existiert in der Welt, vor allem in den USA und Europa, weil sie mit China unfähig sind, mit China zu konkurrieren. Solche Tarife für elektrische Fahrzeuge in Amerika und Europa zeigt, dass diese Staaten, diese Wirtschaften nicht konkurrieren können. Der einzige Ausweg wäre, dass die Arbeiterklasse die Macht übernimmt. Und er sagt, dass es gilt, eben das überall in der Welt zu erzählen. Er stellt auch die Frage, gibt es einen Einfluss der Faschisten innerhalb der Gewerkschaften in Deutschland? Ja, also was ist das Verhältnis innerhalb der Gewerkschaften zu dieser Frage der AfD? Okay.
So the other thing is, I was going to ask about the anti-imperialist movement in Germany, because in the United States, the Palestine movement to defend the Palestinian people has led to the development in the unions of organizing throughout the country of trade unions for Palestine. And the potential is for a political development of these workers in the unions against not just U.S. support for Israel, but also the drive by U.S. imperialism for war with China and war with Russia. And is there any organized support in the working class in Germany against imperialist war, against the war with Russia, against the war in Ukraine, and the expansion of imperialist war, which I think is where we're going globally. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Und dann sagt Steve, wie steht es mit der der Bewegung gegen den Imperialismus in Deutschland? Zum Beispiel in Amerika hat die Unterstützung von Palästina, also die ganze Agitation über Palästina, hat geführt zu einer großen Entwicklung in den Gewerkschaften. Und man beginnt in der Gewerkschaftsbasis Fragen zu stellen über den Imperialismus und den Krieg. Also.
Thanks again, Bob. Dominic, that yourself or John that wants to come in there?
It's me, Jimmy, Dominic. I mean, the situation that we're facing is one that obviously the answer is socialism. But you're not there. You're not going to get there by saying the answer is socialism. I mean, we're talking about transitional demands and the rest of it. But to my mind, what's got to be explained is what is the situation at the moment. The situation at the moment, as I see it, is that there have been major advances in science and development and all the rest of that sort of stuff. But all that is produced by workers. The capitalists play no role in those advances, apart from the fact that they've got capital. They're not a force that takes society forward. They're a force that is out to enrich itself at the cost of the working class. And I think you've got to start saying, who benefits from all this? What benefits do we get out of all these advances, from petrol cars to electric cars and so on? What's in it for us? And I think that should be the base of where we start with transitional demands and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Because you've got to sort of draw the line that there's no accommodation between the capitalists and the working class. The situation is getting so critical that, you know, the capitalists are just out to crush the working class and get them to fight among themselves. They've infiltrated the trade union movement. They've infiltrated the political parties. You've got to explain that the working class needs its own voice and to take on these people and then start to develop what you can do. Obviously, one is a shorter working week. Why can't the car workers benefit out of the advances in society by something for them, something they and their families are going to develop, are going to benefit from, instead of just making the capitalists richer and richer and richer? What is it? Is it now? Is it 8 families, 8 capitalists in the world have got as much wealth as the poorest 50% in the world? I mean, it's just obscene. But it's got to be put on a practical level. They can afford it. They're not going to be on the breadline, even if you take half the wealth away from them. So why can't the workers benefit from the developments that they produced? Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Dominic. Bob, do you want to have a try at that?
Yeah, give it a go. Also, Steve sagte weiter, wie steht es mit der Bewegung gegen den Imperialismus in der Arbeiterklasse? Also ja, die Agitation gegen also für Palästina hat zu großen Entwicklungen in den amerikanischen Gewerkschaften geführt. Dominik sagt, ja, offenbar ist Sozialismus ist die Antwort, aber bloß zu sagen ändert nichts. Es gibt technische und wissenschaftliche Entwicklung. Wir müssen die Frage stellen, wer davon profitiert. Wir müssen Übergangsformeln, Forderungen stellen. Es gibt keinen Mittelgrund. Die Kapitalisten wollen nur uns zu scheiden, divide, und Verwirrungen einzubringen. Eine Idee wäre eine Verkürzung der Arbeiterwoche. Ja, also.
Ja, Jörg, willst du was sagen dazu?
Yeah, also, okay. There was, I note some questions, and I tried to do it in a short way to answer. At first, back to the German automobile industry. You talk about the taxes when we import cars from Germany. So there is a, you know, that there is a decision from the European Commission, so that they have to pay now taxes when European countries import China cars. And that was in Germany, and especially the leaders of all the managers of the German automobile industry did resist to this taxes, because you have to. The reason is Germany still more export more 100 times more cars to China than on the other direction. So when you go to the German streets, you will see not so much China's cars. So and that is, the decision of the European Commission, is against the German car industry. And you can see that the interest inside the capital and inside the ruling classes is split in this question. So on the other side, on the one side, to save the local market. On the other side, to do more free, to have more freedom when to send any cars or other products to abroad. So and then you ask for the influence of the fascists inside the union. So we can fortunately recognize that the influence inside the union is still not so strong. There is still, I would say, inside of the union, also in the leadership, so still anti-fascist attitude. But on the other side, we have a big problems when you look to the votes in the East Germany. So we have to recognize that 50% of the workers vote for the AfD. So that means every second person or people vote for AfD. This is a big problem. So and that is the reason that they call the AfD as a new worker parties in the East Germany. So and that is a big problem. And the other thing is not. They also have many candidates from us workers, from engineers and so on, and which was candidates for the local election. So that means that the danger is still there, that they also have more influence inside of the union. And we have also recognized that that's kind of that we call it in Germany Standortpolitik. So that means that I would say Germans plans easily German plans at first, so that we have to that before we close a plant in Poland or Britain or elsewhere. Or we should save our working place here in Germany at first. So and everybody hopes that they close at first and abroad any plans. So and that is a direction to save your job in Germany, and that goes hand in hand with I would say with the politics of the AfD. So that is the national politics to save, and what Thorsten tells there is not a politic for international or with an international strategy for international resistance against mass layoffs, plants closures, and so on. So and that is plays that kind of politics, national politics plays in the hands of the AfD. So. That's very important to recognize, and there's also a big discussion. Socialism is a big word, but when you look, I heard that from Thorsten. There are a very interesting discussion now inside of the plans between the workers, not in the official structures of the union. So Thorsten's style, or this is his strategy, where completely agree that we have sustainable jobs need sustainable products.
Yeah.
That means that we have to go away from the cars, and we need a strategy. So what fulfills the needs of the community. So we need, we have to do lower down to zero the CO2 emissions, and we have needed policy that people not stay 3 hours in the traffic jams when they go to the work, or come back to the works. And these discussions are very important. And what I think Thorsten would agree is that Thorsten, there's a more open mind now in a rank and file than in a official union structures, and that is very important to recognize. And that is, when we then. Socialism is just a word, but everybody would agree. Socialism is a system, a political system where strictly follow the needs of the population, of the peoples, of the working class, and not follow the interest of the capitalists. So, and that could come in this discussion, but at first, a comrade tell that correctly, or say that correctly in this way, that we need kind of transitions, demands like shortcutting of the working time, so that we more influence of the workers to the decision of the management and the inside of the plants. That is also already in the discussion. So we have the forced rights for for the co-determination inside of the German union. So we have a really straight law called Betriebsverfassungsgesetz, which guarantee the up to the certain point. So a strange right of co-determination. But one transition demand could be that we have more rights of co-determination, for example, and that is a really important point. Also, to the point what the company produce, which is in line with the needs of the community. So that discussion is starting now, and it's very valuable. What I heard from Thorsten, and Thorsten is their leading comrade, which triggers this discussion.
Sure. Bob, could you summarize that very, very briefly for the benefit of Thor?
Oh.
I know there's a lot in it.
Yeah, I think I get the sense that Thor agrees with him. I just wanted to add that there is a subcommittee of the Eastern, Southeastern and London region of the TUC, which deals with a sustainable transformation. And these are activists on the ground working on these matters. They're not, believe me, they're not just bureaucrats. So I'd be delighted to put Thorsten and the others in touch with that grouping. And I think that's a good place to get a discussion of the kind of policies that the comrades are there trying to fashion there.
Okay. Is your microphone okay, Bob?
Yeah, do you want me to carry on? Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry. I just didn't
I'm
know
there,
whether
yeah,
we were
I've done,
speaking
no,
there or not.
no. No, I've finished.
Yeah, we leave it at that. Ben, you want to come back in?
Yeah, I just want to make a brief point about the United States and the comparisons and the lessons for Germany. I don't know if comrades have noticed, but Donald Trump has spent most of his recent time in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, and the region of the Midwest has been devastated with the collapse of the manufacturing industry and the car making industry in Detroit, the steel making industry in Pittsburgh and other areas. And recent research has shown that because of the Democrats' failure to link with working class needs and trade union needs, Trump has picked up significant support amongst workers and unfortunately trade unionists in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania in particular, and the areas where manufacturing industry has collapsed. And that demoralization reflects itself in support for Trump. Trump doesn't care what he says. He lies all the time. But he pretends that he's on the side of the workers and he articulates the anger that they feel. And that's a lesson where there isn't, or the Democrats don't represent a left-wing force, but where there isn't a left-wing alternative, the right can pick up support and just keep an eye on Trump, and you'll see that all these big rallies now are all in Pennsylvania, which is the area where industry, particularly steelmaking in Pittsburgh and the car industry in Detroit, have collapsed. So it's a lesson for workers in Germany. The collapse of industry leads to, unless there's a trade union or, as the comrade mentioned, a socialist alternative, the right wing can move in and pick up support, as Trump is doing.
I think we all agree with that then. Could I ask Thorsten if he wanted to put in any final contribution?
Also, Thorsten, möchtest du umfassend eine Antwort auf der Diskussion geben?
Ja, ich konnte jetzt nicht alles konkret verfolgen von der Diskussion, aber
Shame I couldn't actually follow everything in the discussion. But
aber es stellt sich schon im Allgemeinen jetzt die Frage.
So the question is now.
Gerade in Deutschland will die Gewerkschaftsführung den Konflikt eingehen mit den Kapitalisten, was ich eher nicht glaube.
And do the trade union leaders in Germany want to get into a fight with capitalism? I don't think so.
Und deswegen wird es jetzt ganz stark darauf ankommen, Kolleginnen und Kollegen eben zu organisieren, dass sie sich neben der Gewerkschaft noch organisieren.
Yeah. So the question is, how do we work with our fellow workers to set up a shop next door, to do something beyond the trade unions?
Ja, und ja, soweit erstmal von mir.
And that's it, really.
Okay, thank you, comrade. I thought Finn's, your hand was flashing there for a moment. I see it's gone down now. Comrades, I think that probably, unless anybody wants to throw any final words or ideas into the discussion, I think that probably is where we would leave it. I want to thank all the comrades who did contribute, to Jörg and Thorsten, for bringing the situation in Germany to us and for being patient with us, trying to get through the translation. And I want to thank especially Bob, who was absolutely brilliant in sharing the ideas back and forward and in a manner that I think most of us understand. Next week's meeting is normally a situation now where we pass over to Roger to see, to give us an update on plans.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to endorse what you said. I think it was a really very good discussion. I particularly welcome the comrades who come, of course, Comrade Thorsten, and also Comrade Jörg, and Comrade Norma, and comrades who don't normally come or don't often come to our meetings, who welcome you to come back. We have lively and practical and I think very enlightening discussions every week on the situation around the world. Today, by my reckoning, we had comrades from 8 countries participating on 4 continents. Although it was a small meeting, I think all the comrades who participate are comrades who are active and in many cases influential within the labour movement in their localities. Next week we have a discussion on Scotland. I don't want to say anything on the topic now, but it's remember that every country in the world probably has one or another kind of national question within its boundaries. And the question of Scotland, only a few years ago, it seemed on the cards that it was likely to break away from the so-called United Kingdom. That prospect seems to have receded, at least for the time being. But we've got an update from comrades who are present now. But we look forward to their contributions. So thanks, comrades.
Thank you. Thanks.
Comrades.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. All right.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye, comrades.
Bye.
Bye bye.